Hi everyone. This is the extension to our last assignment. So where we are basically having a math functions and some PowerPoint functions, and we are having a MCP server on top of that. Here the ask was to extract the agentic flow into four different layers, namely memory layer, perception layer, decision layer and action layer. So what these layers are, so perception layer is nothing but basically extracting the inputs, extracting the user queries, understanding the user queries, and coming out with some of standard I would say objects for that. So more of around understanding. Then there is a decision layer which talks about how the decisions are made, like what should be the next step in order to do the agentic workflow, what should be the action we should perform. So this is more of a decisions. Here is the action layer where we are defining and basically executing the actions. Here you can see we have loaded the MCP tools which are there in the MCP server, and we are calling the execute function from this particular code. And there is additional layer, that is memory, which basically keeps track of internal memory, some intermediate outputs, and some additional information which is context specific. So this is how these four layers works on, and this is our main file, or you can say the agent file, where we basically orchestrate, or we basically have a loop in which we execute between perception, decision, action, the things. Let's run it so that we will see how it works. So I'm running agent. Okay, so here you can see the logs where it has basically loaded, initialized all the layers, and then it started taking the action. So my query was find ASCII values and then create sum of exponents. So you can see meanwhile it has opened the PowerPoint. I will switch back to the logs. So first it defined the function call. You can see here this is like we are using python-pptx to define input and output structures. Okay, it has drawn the rectangle on top of the presentation. Let's go back. Here you can see we have different calls and the results fetched. The next this was the call, and then the sum, this is the next call that has been made. Yeah, here you can see we have written the final output into the presentation. The workflow will stop now because it has reached its completion state and the final state. Here you can see the intermediate logs where we are returning the results. Then the PowerPoint function is getting called. Open PowerPoint, then call. This is basically writing the draw rectangle part. Yes, exactly. And then the final one is basically to update it with the text. Okay, so here is that call, update the text, and at the end you will see that we have called it, and then the final answer, and then the task completed successfully. And that's how we have stopped it after around 6 7 iterations.